Hi, good morning, good evening all. Thanks for attending demo for UI development. Let me introduce about myself. My name is K. Ajay Kumar. I am UI development trainer associated with Plugin Technologies from past 4 years. On day to day, I am involved in the UI development on Android apps, iOS apps using front-end as HTML5, CSS, Angular, and JavaScript. And I'm working in a reputed company from past 13 years in the UI development field. And day to day, I work with Angular and HTML. So today, I'm going to explain you what are the course content we are going to cover as part of the UI development. So for the UI development, there are some prerequisites. They are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, basic, advanced, object-oriented JavaScript, jQuery. Apart, we need to have Bootstrap on HTML5, local storage, session storage, and some other features. Then, once we cover the prerequisites, we are going to deep dive into the Angular. So, to learn about Angular, we are going to talk about new version of the Angular like 2, 4, 5, 6, not the old one. Old one is called as Angular JS, which has versions up to 1.8. So to ask with Angular, so we are going to talk about ES6, that is nothing but the latest version of JavaScript. The way HTML has versions like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ES also has versions called as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then we are going to talk about TypeScript, Node.js, NPM, Angular CLI, Angular. So on HTML, prerequisites what we are going to cover is semantic. HTML has broadly two kind of categorization of the elements. One is semantic elements, another one is input elements. What are semantic elements? Like div, span, paragraph, h1, where end user cannot interact or enter the value are called as semantic elements. What are input elements? Input elements are the ones where end user can interact with the values. Like text box, text area, number, date time, radio button, checkbox. So these are the controls where end user can interact. So these are called as input elements. Apart from that, we are going to talk about what are the attributes that are available for the HTML elements like ID, class, read-only, disable. Once we come to the CSS, we are going to discuss about what is style sheet, what is cascading style sheet, how to apply the styles, what is style definition. Then we are going to talk about selectors available in CSS, element selector, ID selector, class selector, distant selector, child, sibling, attribute, and the pseudo elements, pseudo classes. Then we are going to talk about box model, positions, and backward images. Then we are going to start with the JavaScript. So in the JavaScript, we divided into the three areas. One is basic, another is advanced, another one is object-oriented. And a basic one, we are going to discuss about what are the data types that are available in JavaScript. JavaScript is dynamically typable language, so everything will be declared as var. But however, we are going to have string, number, boolean, data types. Then we are going to talk about control flow, what is if condition, while condition, loop condition, for condition, do while conditions, and all. Then we are going to deep dive into the functions. What is a function? How to declare a function? How to pass the parameter? What is the function context? Then anonymous function, immediately invoked functions, and how to call the functions with the different ways. Then we are going to talk about events. So what are the events available in an HTML like click event, hover event, change event, blur event, focus event, and how to attach the events to JavaScript and how to do through add event listener. So what do you mean by function overloading? And apart from some JavaScript features like what is variable hosting, what is function hosting, how the interpreted language will get a solution. Apart from there are more which I have not covered here. Then when you go to the advanced, we are going to go with the anonymous functions, how to declare, what are the use cases to use the anonymous functions. Then we'll go with immediately invoked functions. What do you mean by immediately invoked functions? And what is the function context? What is this? Then we are going to talk about arrays. What are the methods that are available in arrays? Like all the new map, find, filter, all the methods that have been added in the latest versions of the JavaScript. Then we are going to talk about objects in JavaScript. Objects are two types: one is static objects and one is dynamic objects. In the static object is nothing but a group of related properties and methods. We're going to talk about how to create an object, then closure, what do you mean by closure, what are the use cases, and how to place safely with closures. Then we are going to go with object-oriented JavaScript. In the object-oriented JavaScript, we're going to talk about what do you mean by prototype and what are the constructor functions and how to create the objects out of the constructor functions, then how to achieve the inheritance in the prototype inheritance. Apart from these concepts like namespace and modules, how they are achieved in the JavaScript also, we're going to deep dive as a part of the JavaScript. This all comes under as a prerequisites. Then we are going to talk about jQuery. The name itself indicates is querying the DOM elements using JavaScript. It's a library built on top of the JavaScript by Jan Receipt is the author. So some people have a myth that jQuery is used to solve some of the problem statements which JavaScript cannot solve. That is wrong. jQuery will not solve any problem which we cannot solve on Core.js. So jQuery used to make the developer life very fast or more productive. Means if you want to fetch an element value or do through the elements and apply a specific style, in JavaScript it may take around 10 lines of code, whereas in jQuery it will take only 2 lines of code. So with that, developers' productivity has been improved. So we're going to say what is jQuery, what do you mean by selectors, how to manipulate the DOM, how to fetch the element values, how to set the element values, how to set the styles, how to edit the styles, then events, how to attach the events to the DOM elements using the JavaScript, and Ajax, how to do server-side APIs interaction with jQuery. Not only that, we are going to do some more concepts also on top of the jQuery. Then we start with Bootstrap. So Bootstrap is a CSS framework built on top of the CSS by Twitter Bootstrap. Okay. So what is CSS? Is a styling framework. Means it doesn't have any styles out of the box. That means if you want to get a button with a background color of red and forecolor of green, you can achieve through the CSS. But we have to write your own classes, your own definition for that. But if you want out of the box controls like I want a primary button, I want a secondary button, I want a warning button, I want a primary label with different color combinations which you want at readily at your disposal, that is what is Bootstrap. Bootstrap is nothing but ready-made classes available at our disposal so that we can achieve the responsive design or the layout or the styles very fast. So the main important component of Bootstrap is a grid system. So what are the grid systems? If you want to achieve 2-column layout, 3-column layout, 4-column layout, again in the device, in the web, we want to show it as a 4 columns, and the device, you want to show it as a single column, or vice versa. If you want to do it, the grid system will make your life very simple so that everything is achieved automatically. Apart from that, what are the styles that are available, the tables, buttons, like icons, inputs? There are many out of the box ready-made styles available for the different categories of the controls which we are going to discuss in our Bootstrap. Then we are going to discuss an HTML5. So we are going to talk about what are the new elements that has been added, like date, time, audio, video, number, and URL, telephone controls. Then we are going to talk about new attributes that has been added, placeholder, min length, and required pattern. So what are the new attributes that has been added and how they are going to get used. Then we are going to talk about how to store the information at the browser side. One is local storage, one is session storage, and when to use local storage and when to use session storage. This is what the use cases which we are going to discuss. Then after these prerequisites are covered, then we are going to go with ES6. So what is ES6? ES6 is latest version of the JavaScript. Okay, so ES6 has got so much attention and popularity. The reason because it has done massive changes in the ES6 compared to the old versions of the JavaScript. So it has been introduced let, constant as the new variable types. Apart from that, on parameter side, it has introduced default parameters, rest parameters, and spread parameters, and there is something called as template literals also. Then another drastic change that has been added is classes. So you should be able to create a class. Before ES5, there is no concept of a class in JavaScript. Everything is a function or an object. Whatever you want to do, you should be able to do as a function. Take for example, AngularJS version 1.8 is built on top of function-based solution. Means if you want to develop a TileScart application, you will be able to do with AngularJS, but all the concepts like MVC concepts like model, view, controllers, and everything will be designed as a functions, and the solution is provided as a function-based solution. Now, once the classes has been added, so you'll be able to create a class like similar to your C, C Sharp, Java, Python. So a class is nothing but group of properties and methods. Okay. So with this, any developers who are coming from the server side background, um, it will make easy for them to write the class-based solution, because on the server side they are writing the class-based solution. On the front end side also, if they have an option of developing the classes and develop the same tile cards application as a class-based solution, it will make them more productive over there. That's the main scope of ES6 classes. Then the another major features that has been added is modules. What do you mean by modules? Imagine the same TileScart application. We have different components of the application. Like there is a login module, there is a login screen, there is a registration screen, there is a add to cart screen, there is a buy screen, there is a listing screen, there is a filtering screen, and wish list screen, order screen. So there are multiple screens. Each screen has its own JS file. Typically, in any single page application development, we need to refer all the JS files in one shot in our HTML file. The disadvantage of this is your page time, load time is going to get affected, because if you have around 30 JS files that are getting referred in HTML, so it takes 30 requests to the server and it has to get those responses asynchronously. Not only getting the responses, when you get the response, it is actually we are getting the response as a string, then we need to parse it as a script, then we get this become a JavaScript that defines it. So instead that ES6 has introduced an option, don't load all the JS files at one shot. Load the JS files only on required, only on demand. That concept is called as modules, and we are going to discuss about how the modules are going to be built. Another thing is arrow functions. Arrow functions is like simple way of declaring the functions without writing the full base function and function name, open brace, and parentheses and all that stuff. It will be just like an arrow kind of a syntax which we are going to discuss. Okay, then once we talk about ES6, then we are going to talk about TypeScript. Okay, so why do we learn something called as TypeScript? So I have already learned about JavaScript and ES6. Why should I learn something called as TypeScript? Okay, so to do that, so let's talk about Angular. So Angular has 245, as I said, is the major design pattern which Angular followed to design the solutions is, as JavaScript has added the classes and modules. So what Google thought is, it will be good to completely discard the existing framework AngularJS, which is written on a function-based solution, to the class-based solution. So what they did is, why can't we write all our Angular 5 applications using classes and modules? Yes, that's bad. So why do we need something called as TypeScript? Okay, so now if you go to any of the Angular documentation, if you go to any of the Angular samples, most of the examples are used written through TypeScript, not through the JavaScript. Okay. So why should we need TypeScript? Imagine, okay, ES6 is added in 2017. Okay, the year 2017 is the one where ES6 has been added, and it has been implemented by most of the browsers like Firefox, Chrome, and Edge in 2017. Imagine we are going to develop our TileScart application using ES6. Okay, yes, it will be good. You can load on the browser starting from 2017. It's all work fine because every browser has a JavaScript parser. So if the parser is updated to understand the classes and modules, it will work seamlessly. Imagine a situation where you are trying to load your Angular 5 application written using classes and modules on a browser which is built before 2016. So when you try to load your application, it will get failed because the browser which has the JavaScript parser doesn't have any definition or how to deal with classes and modules, it will fail. So the main problem is if you're trying to use Angular 5 class-based design, it doesn't solve for the old browser. Means we will not be able to get the older browser compatibility. Old is not very old, even 1 or 2 years old is still becoming old. So we cannot afford to have an application developed where I'll say that okay, I'll support only the browsers from 2017, which is not at all feasible solution. Okay. So then we have two options. One is develop the application with Angular JS, option one. So which will work seamlessly with new browsers and old browsers. But we are going to lose performance and memory. If you develop the TileScud application using AngularJS 1.8 and same if you develop with Angular 4.5, without doing extra effect, you are going to get 40% faster performance on the load time and interaction time and memory management also, which you will lose if you're trying to go with AngularJS. But if I'm going with Angular 5, I'm going to gain the performance, but I'm going to lose the older browser compatibility. Then we have to see for an option which will automatically, if I'm trying to load, I want to write in a latest specifications, but if it is working on a older browser, I want some Siri kind of an assistant, Android, what do you call, like every application has a Google Assistant, really kind of an assistant, which will automatically convert my class kind of a code if it is rendering to the older browsers as a function-based code. That is what is TypeScript. Okay. So why we are going to learn the TypeScript language is nothing but new for you as an end user or for me as a developer. TypeScript is nothing but JavaScript for me. It's not a new language. It's just JavaScript. So TypeScript is used to when we develop our solutions and the classes and modules, we use TypeScript guidelines. So what TypeScript is, browser ultimately does not understand TypeScript. So browser will understand only the JavaScript. So what we are going to do is uh, we develop through the TypeScript, and TypeScript says when you define a class, it follows specific guidelines. When you define a module, you follow a specific guideline. I'll take care of, like, if any browser makes a request to the application, if it is ES6 compatible browser, then I'll convert it as a class. If it is ES5 compatible browser, I'll convert it as a function. So I'll take care of the converting and heavy lifting for you. That's why we are going to talk about TypeScript. So TypeScript is what do you call? It's introduced the types. We'll be able to declare as string, number, boolean. Then we have the classes. Then we are going to talk about interfaces. Then we have function with types. I can specify the function parameter as number, string, boolean. I can specify the return parameters also. Apart from that, we have modules. Then we'll talk about how to transpile the TypeScript code to the ES6 compatible code or ES5 compatible code. Okay. Yes. Then apart from that, we are going to talk about Node.js. Okay. So what is Node.js? See, Node.js is a platform to execute the JavaScript on the server side. Okay. Let's discuss more about this. Okay. A browser is able to execute the JavaScript. Why? Because browser has a parser for JavaScript. That's the reason it is able to execute the JavaScript. Can I execute C# code in browser? No, because there is no runtime and there is no parser. Can I execute Java code on browser? No, there is no runtime, there is no parser. What if in browser I can go and apart from JavaScript parser, I'll be able to somehow inject the .NET runtime. Can I execute C# code? Yes, because it has the runtime. So basically, for any language to get executed, what is required is the runtime. So wherever the runtime is available, I should be able to execute the JavaScript over there. So there is a person with name Rand Nahar. What he thought? JavaScript has so much power, but it has been limited only to the browser. The browser is the only one who has the parser for that. So why can't I take it to the second step? So let's take this JavaScript. I can execute on the server. So what he did, He approached the Chrome and he took the V8 Chrome engine, that is nothing but the V8 JavaScript engine which will execute the JavaScript on Chrome, and he created a package and he created a MSI and we'll be able to install on the server. Means the way you are able to install a .NET framework where you are able to execute a C# code, Node.js is nothing but a JavaScript runtime on the server so that we will be able to execute the JavaScript. So what is the advantage? See, as of now, when you want to do a front-end web development, you are using JavaScript. But if you want to write a back-end web APIs, you are using C# or Java or Python. But with Node.js, we should be able to write even our back-end also using JavaScript. So that is what is the main target and goal. Okay, so we discussed about Node.js. Then we'll talk about NPM. So what is NPM? Is Node Package Manager. Take an Android app. So Android phones. Android phone has an Android OS which will help in executing all the apps that has been installed in Android. For example, I want to book a movie ticket. So with Android OS on runtime, can I book a movie ticket? No. We need to install the apps like Book My Show, Paytm, Book My Ticket. So which will execute on top of that Android OS to get the ticket done. Similarly, Node.js is a runtime. Means you can create any JavaScript package which will do a specific purpose using Node.js. But Node.js on its own doesn't have any packages out of the box, but it has a options for the community to build the packages. That is called as Node Package Manager. So Package Manager is like a Play Store where you will be able to create many apps and register with that so that you can install on the Android OS. Similarly, NPM is nothing but a package. There we call it as apps, here we call it as packages. It's a packages which people can build using JavaScript, which can get executed on Node.js. Angular CLI. Okay, Angular CLI is nothing but command line interface for developing the Angular applications. It has nothing to do with Angular development. It works as an assistant to do the Angular development. If we are from .NET background, for Microsoft technology, we have editor called as Visual Studio, which will help in developing the application. So when you want to create a MVC application, it has its own project template. Select the template as MVC, it will create all the HTML, routing, CSS, and, views, controllers, razor engines, everything will get created for us automatically. Similarly, if it's from a Java, we have Eclipse, which will help us in creating the project templates automatically. But Angular, which is a framework by Google, doesn't have an editor on its own. So, but still, Google tried in helping the developers to create the project templates and creating the project templates so that it will create a bare minimum project structure. And apart from creating a service, creating a component, serving the application, creating a simple lightweight web server. But all of them doesn't have an editor attached or IDE attached, but all of them are done through the command line interface. So what are the use cases is we should be able to install the in the command line interface, we should be able to create a new application, we should be able to serve the application, we should be able to create the service, we should be able to create the components. So there are many things which will help us in doing that for us. Apart from that, we actually start with Angular development. So what is an Angular development? So it's like Angular has so many features like data binding, means how we will bind the data from a controller to the view. So it has many options like one-way binding, two-way binding, event binding, property binding. Then components like Angular is completely developed through a methodology using component-based development. For example, if you take Tiles card application, you can take login itself as a component, registration itself as a component, searching is component, tiles listing is a component, tile details is a component. So everything will be treated as a component over there. Then we are going to talk about pipes, services. We'll go through in depth in our classroom sections. So what is meant by pipes, what do you mean by services, what is dependency injection, lifecycle hooks, routing, HTTP communication, and component communication. forms. There are two ways of forms development. One is template forms and reactive forms. And what are directives? What are structural directives? What is attribute directives? What are the out of the box directives like ngFor, ngIf, and ngClass, different ones. And apart from that, how can we build our own directives like structural and attribute directives? So when we are trying to do our Angular development, so we are going to do a case study. That means till ES6, we are going to do an individual example so that we can get a comfort on those things. But when we are trying to do with Angular development, we are not going to do any individual examples. We are going to take a case study of mobile card registration, mobile card. So what does this mean? We have for this mobile card e-commerce website has 30 business cases to be developed. Like user should be able to register with the application, user should be able to log in with the application, user should be able to contact the support for any queries, and user should be able to display the mobiles, user should be able to keep the rating, user should be able to see the details of the filter the required specific ones. Like that, there are business cases. Now Angular has solutions for them. Means how to do server-side communication, how to use HTTP communication, how to write your own service, how to use create nested components, how to use the data binding, how to use one-way binding, how to use the two-way binding. So for the 30 problem statements or business cases in the e-commerce website, we are going to bridge them with the 30 solutions available in the Angular development pattern, one step at a time. So we will start with the empty app and we'll start bridging one case with one solution, one case with one solution. Like that, we have 30 to 35 odd business cases bridged with Angular development. So the main focus of the case study is to bridge the gap using the Angular, not full-fledged case app development over there. So with that, you are very confident when you even if you are going to the interviews or anywhere, you will be very confident that okay, yes, how we have done your full-fledged website development. So this is how the typical application will look like and how you are going to have a login screen, registration screen, home screen, listing screen, and displaying the images and all. So this is how the registration form will look like. This is how where you have a login, and this is how you have a welcome page, and this is what is the details of the mobile. So where you can go and add wish list and all other stuff. So let me show the runtime of this application. This is a real-time runtime screen over here. So where people should be able to register the any of those users for any reasons. If the users enters doesn't enter any of the details and try to put, it will throw an error over there. So then you try to enter all the proper fields. You should be able to do that. Then apart from that, you can actually enter any user as a login. So if it is a valid user, it will actually take you to the welcome screen automatically. Then you'll be able to go to the mobiles, and then you should be able to filter the mobiles whatever you want. Then you should be able to go to the details of the mobiles, and you can go back and you can add them to the wish list. And even you can go and give your own rating also over there. Okay, in case for any reason, if you're not a valid user, then it will actually throw a message saying that okay, you are not a valid user here. Then even if you don't enter any data and try to click, it will say username is required. So we are going to see all these forms, how to validate, how to use all other stuff as a part of our course development. So ours is like 80% hands-on and 20% theory. I encourage everyone to get home laptops installed so that we are going to help you to install all the softwares, tools, and everything required for that. I'm going to help you and assist you in solving the problems when you're trying to develop the business case. I prefer everyone has the business e-commerce website developed from scratch to the end by end of our course, and you are comfortable as a take care of the app so that you're very comfortable and you can go and extend if you want.